Yo YouTube, what's up? It's your boy SalvationsElite, and we are back with another video, guys. So if you guys didn't see, the CSGO finals were a few days ago, and they got some crazy viewership. It was like 1.3 million people were watching the CSGO finals with Cloud9 versus Faze. I don't watch CSGO basically ever, but I even tuned in, and I wanted to see what all the hype was about. And really, it got me and a lot of other people wondering, like, what is holding Call of Duty back, or why isn't Call of Duty even getting close to these levels? That was what I really wanted to talk about today. It doesn't make sense that one of the top 5 selling video games every single year wouldn't be able to draw a few 100,000 people into a competitive event. And that's the issue that MLG and that's the issue that the CWL and MLG and all of competitive Call of Duty have had over the last few years. And it's just disappointing to see that there hasn't been as much growth as, you'd really hope for there to be. And also, before we get into the video, I just want to say that I'm going to be making the channel of the month shout out video very soon. So if you have any channels that you want to get shouted out, basically keep them below roughly 2,000 subscribers, because I want to be able to actually help them in some way or another. Otherwise, it wouldn't make much sense. But nonetheless, if you guys got any channels that you guys want to help, drop in the comments below, and I'll check them out and see if they win channel of the month. There really are a lot of issues and a lot of reasons why Call of Duty isn't growing and isn't reaching even anything close to the levels that CSGO is getting. And I mean, at the end of the day, Call of Duty doesn't need to be CSGO. We don't need to have 1 million people watching, but I think the whole Call of Duty community would appreciate that. And at the end of the day, it would elevate the experience of all of competitive Call of Duty. I think it's extremely important to understand what would foster a better competitive community in Call of Duty and the things that are holding it back currently. So really, the first issue is that there isn't enough marketing on the MLG level, the organizational level, or the individual level. And I really do think that's been the biggest issue with competitive Call of Duty the last few years. I bet almost all of us have seen 1 or 2 ads for the Overwatch League, if not a lot more than 1 or 2. I'm sure I saw probably 5 or 6 or 7 ads for the Overwatch League before it actually launched. And I mean, that made me aware of it. It kind of made me interested. I honestly did. I almost watched. I'm not an Overwatch fan at all. I've never played Overwatch. It would probably be the most confusing thing ever for me, but I literally almost watched it because I just wanted to see what it was like. MLG really needs to develop some sort of marketing scheme, some sort of marketing plan, have a marketing budget to really push competitive Call of Duty, put it into the minds of the consumers, and plant those seeds. Again, the next thing that needs to happen is organizations need to be more creative in how they push themselves. So when it comes to like content creation, where an org like, I don't know, Evil Geniuses or even Envy, you don't know of any content creators for those type of organizations because they really just don't have them. And the issue is that those organizations aren't doing a good job of building their brand, not only in the competitive Call of Duty community, but in the Call of Duty community as a whole when that comes to casual public players who would watch YouTubers who make content about pubs and about what's going on in normal Call of Duty. I think it's extremely important for, orgs like Optic has Pomage, who does sniping, and then you got like Hitch and Maniac and Mbos, who don't actually play competitively anymore, like Mbos, but they still make videos. They build the brand of Optic, and that's what Optic has done so well these last few years. The issue is that no other orgs have been able to establish that, and most haven't even tried to do that. So I don't know what's going on with that. That makes no sense. And then the individual level, pro players need to work to build their brands and do things that build their brands, emphasize the need for content creation and things like that to build their platform on social media. The issue is a lot of these Call of Duty guys don't have very huge personalities. Like, say a team like TK, who's so dominant, but they don't have those personalities on their team to really sell. Where Optic, like, you have Scump, who's built his brand on YouTube by himself for the last 5 years, who've been pumping out videos since Black Ops 2, MW3. And so he's built his own brand on YouTube, which he's done a fantastic job of, while also competing at an elite level. And I think a lot more players need to do things that build their brands, because it creates storylines, it creates interest, and it links the gap between pubs and competitive. So then, of course, the next thing is like the organization of tournaments and how it works with communicating the matches and advertising those matches to the public. I'm very invested in competitive Call of Duty, and I think a lot of you guys are too. And the issue is that when you're during a tournament, you honestly don't really know when teams are playing. It's hard to actually know who's up next unless you're actually watching the stream. There needs to be a very public, easily shared bracket that is always up to date, that always shows when matches are about to start, what stream they'll be on, and how to access those things, because right now it's still a little bit too confusing. And especially since it was on MLG.TV for so long and not on Twitch, that was such a big issue, and it really divided the community in a lot of ways. Bridging that gap is going to be really tough, and that's something that needs to happen in the upcoming year or two. Basically, the last few things are all about the developers and what they can do to support competitive Call of Duty. Because if you go look at other competitive games, if you go look at other esports titles, almost all those games are directly linked to competitive, where like the casual players become competitive players. Where in Call of Duty, that doesn't necessarily happen. You don't have casual players always becoming competitive players, because ranked play is pretty meaningless to the average pub player. So what all the developers have really struggled with, basically since Call of Duty's ever existed, since competitive Call of Duty's existed, is the balance between competitive players and casual players. It's just been really frustrating for the competitive Call of Duty community, because it seems a lot of the time that the developers aren't that in tune or not that interested in helping the competitive community. Where we didn't even have a ranked playlist on Infinite Warfare, basically, and there's just a different competitive type of ranked play every single year. What there needs to be is a very consistent ranked play that's the same throughout all the Call of Duties. That's just a fantastic ranked play system that encourages competitive Call of Duty, because those are the people who are going to be most invested in the game. And I don't understand why developers don't see that, the value of competitive players, because those guys are the ones who will always be playing the game, who will always be pushing the game, and they'll be representing the game on streams and on competitive platforms. I don't understand why developers don't get that. And then like during tournaments, there need to be in-game updates that are very obvious, almost like little notifications on your phone or something, that tell you when games are happening, when games are about to start, what tournament's going on, and you can follow certain teams or whatnot. Things like that have to be in the game. There need to be like stickers in the game that you can have, like different types of camos for what team you support. Optic gaming camos, TK camos. They had those in Black Ops 3, I think they added at the end. But they've never really had them from the beginning, and that's the issue. And they never have anything from the beginning. And it's just the developers have so much fault in why Call of Duty hasn't gotten to a point where CSGO is. And I get that there's been a big difference in age, where CSGO's been around for a long time and they've developed a very consistent fan base. But at the same time, Call of Duty's been around for a long time and there has not been that fan base developed because of the consistent changes that developers always want to make with rank play, how it works. There hasn't been a consistent system with the CWL until the last few years. So I mean, that's good to see, and there needs to be a lot more of that in the future. But at the end of the day, ranked play needs to have more value in Call of Duty, in the game itself, for competitive Call of Duty to ever take off. And what I mean by that is you have to be able to level up in prestige while you're playing ranked play. You need to get XP for it. Whether maybe it's less than playing pubs, but you need to get something for it, because a lot of pubs players who value leveling up and prestiging and doing all that don't want to play ranked play because you can't level up in prestige. Where like in League of Legends or CSGO, ranked play is basically directly related to how you progress in the game. And so that's the difference for why players don't translate to competitive in Call of Duty. They have a ranked play system that allows you to make some teams that you can like make a team inside of ranked play and level up that team, kind of like a game battles ladder, but obviously in the system of a ranked play setting. That's what it needs to happen. You need to have very good matchmaking that matches 4s versus 4s, 2s versus 2s, 3s versus 3s, or do the best it possibly can, where right now it's still really screwed up. I'm excited to see what this update is. I'm looking forward to my chance to actually play it, and maybe that'll fix some of the things. But right now, there's a lot that needs to work. There needs to be consistent ranked play throughout all the Call of Duties that has the same format every year, so that we don't have to question whether or not this game's going to be a good competitive game or not, just because the ranked play sucks. So at the end of the day, there's a lot that needs to be changed for Call of Duty to reach CSGO levels, and I hope within the next few years it can happen. But right now, it looks a little dim. It looks a little sad. But I'm gonna stay optimistic that the developers will continue to understand the value of competitive gaming as it gets bigger and bigger, and that they will want to tap into that value and that market even more as time goes along. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys do, like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. I really appreciate you guys, and it's been a great ride so far. I hope CoD WW2 can get even better from here. But as always, guys, I'm your boy, SalvationsElite, and we'll see you next time. I'm out. It's very similar to the cabin hill on Ardennes Forest, where there's a lot of smokes, there's a lot of nades. Everybody kind of understands where everybody else is. Like, there isn't too many options where people can come from because it's tucked in the corner. And so you're just chucking nades, you're chucking smoke.